Now we have Streets of Rage, one that, along with its sequel, I've played a bit of a few times over the years but never stayed on long enough to beat. I'm playing this on the Mega Games 2 cartridge that, from what I've heard, is how most people played this. Don't know if it's true. When I first got a new Mega Drive in 2012 after being without one for a decade, this was the first thing I bought to try out. I already had the PS2 Sega Mega Drive collection already, but was annoyed that we had whole sets of games from a few series but not one Streets of Rage. I don't care about unlocking Zaxxon, I wanted to give this game a proper go. The game takes place in an unnamed city that was once peaceful until a crime syndicate secretly took over, even having control over the government and police. Now mass violence and crime takes place constantly, so 3 ex-police officers have teamed up to clean up the place themselves. By the way, I loved the music during this opening. So we've got 3 characters and a 2-player run for 4 playthroughs. Gotta love how none of the 3 have any stats going below B. They're all 2 A's and 1 B. Not a single C. They're all either amazing in one aspect or fucking amazing. That's what I like to see. I'll start with Axel Stone for round 1. 3 buttons, attack, jump, and the special one I'll get to later. By walking up close to an enemy, you can grab them and either pummel them or throw them. Like all good beat 'em ups, there's food to eat off the floor, items to pick up, points, and weapons. Axel's the easy, well-rounded beginner character. He also plays video games. Like me! He's just like me! We're basically the same. Right away we're only fighting the most basic thug, Garcia. He's basically the game's equivalent to Brett from Final Fight or Williams from Double Dragon. After a bit we meet Y Signal. They're also similar to a pair of Final Fight enemies, J and 2P, being jacketed guys with mohawks who always have their backs facing the screen. They try to go for grabs and sliding kicks. I get my first weapon, a glass. One hit over an enemy's head will smash it and then it can be used for stabbing. After a little bit I pick up the pipe, which has great range and can take out a few guys at once. When I get one of these I try to keep it as long as I can. A little further I meet my first Hakuyo. They like to go for flying kicks but this one doesn't get very far. A little further I have 4 Galcias fail to intimidate me and another Hakuyo fail to get his kick in. But I do sadly lose my pipe when a Galcia punches me in the face and it fades away. A little after this I start meeting Nora, the whip wielder. They also don't last long here. After that I pick up a Galcia's knife. You can stab while up close or if you're further away from the enemy you'll throw it. Once the last Nora is dealt with we meet our first boss, Antonio. He uses a big boomerang. He's also very easy. It's easy to grab and throw and jump kicks work well on him too. He doesn't last long. Time for round 2 where I'll be showing footage of my Blaze fielding playthrough. Blaze is the fast one that's good at jumping but isn't quite as freakishly strong as the other 2. The difference in strength is kinda negligible though, which means she's just the one that's faster than the others. Her jump kick's also loads better than Axel's. She wound up being the one I enjoy playing as the most. I get the Pepper Shaker, which when thrown will stun an enemy for a bit. You'll also notice I have an extra life. You start with 3, but when you reach 50,000 points you get a new life. Then you get another one for every subsequent time your point counter's 10,000th digit reaches 5. There's also an extra life item in the shape of a little toy of the 3 main characters. There aren't that many though. Not much to say about the look of this level though. It's the more dilapidated part of town, and its music track is even called Dilapidated Town. After I get stopped at this door and deal with a couple Hakuyos and a few Galcias, the last basic enemy shows up. I hate Jack. Always juggling some kind of weapon, this one some torches. Touching the juggled objects does cause damage and trying to hit him from the front normally just knocks away one of his infinite supply. This one isn't too bad to deal with though because I can whack him with his pipe. Shame I have to deal with him a Galcia and right up and slaps it out of my hands so I have to fight the next one properly. If you can stun him with a hit and you're close enough, you can grab him. A little further and I meet boss 2, Souther. As I'm going through him, a Galcia charges in and stuns me so I finally use a special button, calling other police who will fire rockets towards me. It doesn't affect me but it damages everyone on screen. The best way to deal with Souther is to try to get close and grab him. Do not under any circumstances jump because then he becomes invincible and charges in for an attack. Thing is, muscle memory from other bosses sometimes kicks in and I can't help it. You'll need to come in vertically to grab him though, just walking a straight line up to his face and you'll get clawed. The fact that there's always a Galcia backing him up makes things a little harder. He does get a kill in here, so I use my replenish special to finish him off. I prefer to save it but I also don't want to risk losing another life. Time for round 3 on the beach with Adam Hunter, who just barely managed to beat Souther without losing a life. He's the slightly slower, strongest one but can still jump better than Axel. Right away I find the baseball bat. It's stronger than the pipe but doesn't have as much reach. This is the point where stronger versions of the regular enemies will appear wearing different coloured clothes. Unlike a lot of other beat 'em ups in this game's sequels, the power swaps aren't presented as different characters with different names. So that's still Galcia, but now he's wearing green. Also you may have noticed the rain while we're here. After Fatal Fury in the last part of this episode, it's nice to see rain that isn't blinding. So Adam's that one character you get in a lot of series. They're there in the first game and just as important as the other main characters, but then they're gone in the next. They may be an NPC and have cameos like Adam, or they're just gone not to be mentioned, but they're never playable again. Is what I've had ready in my head for a year and a half now, but since I recorded this game, Streets of Rage 4 was announced. When Adam's daughter Cherry was announced, I thought that was it for him and the pattern would continue. But in the last couple of months it was revealed that Adam is indeed returning as a playable character, and it only took him 29 years. It's always nice seeing once important but since neglected characters make a comeback. So there wasn't much talk of a level here, but the footage on screen should speak well enough for it. This is the level where they start throwing more complicated mobs at you rather than just a few Galcias and maybe another guy. Nothing too hard to deal with still. We make it to the boss, Abadidi, who charges in on screen to be met with a police rocket. Aside from Antonio, Abadidi is the easiest boss. He just charges at you and hooks you, but you can time your jump kicks to make it trivial, until another ever-present Galcia ruins your rhythm and gets you hit. Then I just hang at the edge of the screen and jump kick off out of view while he keeps running into it and wasting his life until he's beat. For round 4, let's switch over to my 2-player room with me as Axel and my long-suffering player 2 as Blaze. Here we're on a bridge. I'm not an expert or that knowledgeable on the game, but I'd still say player 2 did quite well for a first time playing. Since I've explained nearly everything at this point, I'd just like to point out something everyone knows about this game. Yuzo Koshiro's music is great. I'm not good at describing music though, so I'll avoid embarrassing myself and just leave it at that descriptor. After a while we begin to see the city in the back and start to get holes in the bridge that will cause instant death, so they're useful for throwing enemies into. Another thing I'd like to point out is how nice the game looks for 1991. In some ways its environments look nicer than Final Fights despite that being on more powerful hardware. Mainly I think it's because the stages are at night. I mentioned it with World 3 in the All-Stars version of Super Mario Bros. I don't know what it is, but for some reason night stages looked especially nice on 16-bit consoles. Another bit of behind the scenes fluff. I first tried recording this game on the PS4 Sega Mega Drive Classics and just couldn't fucking do it. Same difficulty, but I just could not beat the thing. I've heard somehow they fucked it importing and the enemy AI is far more aggressive than usual, and I guess that makes sense. Because all these playthroughs you're seeing on the original Mega Drive are my only attempts, I beat them all on the first try. Including this being player 2's first time playing. That was also a problem too, I had only one PS4 controller and I needed a 2-player run for the other ending. I don't think it was from getting practice either because there was a month or so between trying this on the PS4 and this. Also, player 2 fell in the hole and kneed me in the head for it. They also doubled the extra lives you can find, normally there's only one under a cone here. Sometimes though, things can end up a bit uneventful for one player thanks to the layout of this level, so Axel gets stuck cheerleading for Blaze to pass the time. One last thing to mention is that when thrown by an enemy, if you press up and jump while in the air, you'll land on your feet with no damage. Only if thrown though, it doesn't work if they face slam you into the ground. Once you make it to the other side of the bridge, the 4th boss is Bongo, a fat fire breather. On 2-player there's 2 of him here. He can be a right bastard with the hit detection on his flames. Walk just above or below him to dodge and then quickly hit. Also, do not try to throw him, he's too heavy for you and you'll take damage. He's harder than Antonio and Abadidi, but whether or not he's harder than Souther depends on how the game's feeling that run. A couple of police calls ends up finishing them off. We'll stick with this run for round 5 on this boat. Now they're getting serious, 5 super quick Galcias rushing us right away. I also got accidentally suplexed by Blaze. A lot of that whenever we get close. She also gets overwhelmed by the game's Galcia spam at one point. Not quite as annoying as the 4 Noras wearing black though. These ones when hit can sometimes scream and drop to their knees where they can't be hit at all for a bit. Especially annoying if one likes to do it after every hit. You could throw them though. As thanks for helping out, player 2 gives me a lethal eye poking. I just rise above it and walk away. After taking out a few Hakuyos that jump onto the boat from below, we have to fight Abadidi again. The jump kick, walk away, jump kick strat works well this time because there's no Galcia to interrupt. After that is something like 12,000 Hakuyos and my own personal hell, 5 jacks. Luckily there was a police sight on drop so I could use the one I already had. Then I get 2 signals playing catch with me and nearly wiping out my health bar. After that, Abadidi is back for more and he brought his Galcia with him too. Player 2 dealt with most of his health before I stole the glory with the finishing throw. All that's left after that is the most tenacious jack I've had to deal with before the bosses, Mona and Lisa, arrive. Right away we're missiling them, anything to make them easier. Then one kills player 2, giving another free police attack, killing one and leaving the other a hit from death. And I'm so grateful for it, I hate these two. They're green power swaps with Blaze and they jump all over the place. Usually one jump kicks towards you while another walks up to you to grab you. I know there's a strategy to them and it's all to do with your positioning, but in all 4 playthroughs it felt like luck whenever I connected with an attack. I usually just end up beating them because they kill me and give me another police shot to finish them with. Definitely the least fun part of the game. Back to Adam for round 6 in this industrial area. We've got conveyor belts to deal with and probably the douchiest looking palette swap of Galcia in the game. This level is my least favourite from a visual standpoint, but then again, is anyone's favourite level in a 2D beam up the industrial area? There's also crushers around here too. Better jump if you're near them because even if they don't touch you, you can get knocked down. It also works on the enemy too. A little bit after it I have to fight another Bongo. I'm not taking any chances and as soon as he's in range I stun lock him by punching once, waiting and punching again. Just repeat until he dies. That works on regular enemies too, but I only use it if I only have one opponent on screen. Nothing much happens to the next stretch, aside from the extra life and special attack being right next to each other, and this one Jack was my favourite because he doesn't juggle anything for some reason. Then it's the boss. which is 2 Southers. Right away I'm using both my specials. I get some hits in afterwards, but they get on either side of me and tear into me. I manage to kill one before the other kills me, then I just use my new police missile to get him. Round 7 and we return to my Blaze playthrough. The entire level is on this giant lift that rises a bit before dropping a group of enemies on me. The right side of the screen acts as a pit, which is very helpful because if you're positioned well enough, you can get a good chain of throwing everyone over the edge. Of course, be careful on that side yourself because you too can get knocked over. First wave is easy, a couple Hakiyos and signals and a few Garcias before the lift moves up. Wave 2 adds 1 or 2 more Hakiyos into the mix but is mostly the same. When I get to wave 3 I use my special right away. This is the final level you can use them, so don't bother hanging on. If you're close to death, just use it. I really enjoy this level, throwing a guy over the edge just feels good. Gotta love that one arrogant Hakiyo on wave 4 that stood on the barrier and got tapped off. This is the wave that starts bringing the Noras into it too. When we get to wave 5 you can see the city skyline, but this building's still going. Throw that last lot over the edge and finally enter. Back to Axel for the final level, round 8. Inside the Syndicate's headquarters where my first opponent is a food trolley. After every group of enemies there's going to be another one ready to hit me. Enemies start off pretty basic, mainly Garcias, but then Antonio returns and he's just as easy as ever. Except for meeting him with almost no health left, so he gets a lucky hit in to finish me. After him we start getting Jax. I still get hit by the trolley though. Also at this point, after the whole game being at night, we can see it become dawn through the windows. Next I have to fight Souther again and he gets 3 hits on me before I even get one in. But that's all he gets, I managed to repeat the old bait and grab to take him out. Also the sky lights up even more. It really sells the idea that we're going through a long fight and they're throwing absolutely everything they have at us. Abadidi manages to get his one punch in before I take him down for a 4th time. At this point they're mainly throwing Hakiyos at me with the odd Nora mixed in before Bongo returns yet again. He gets a couple hits in but then he's still knocked to death again. Now we have what I'd say is the hardest stretch. Doesn't seem so bad at first, a couple Noras and some Hakiyos with a Jack. But now I reach the door, where even more Hakiyos come in. One even kills me. None of that is why this is the hardest. It's because I have to fight Mona and Lisa again, when running desperately low on lives and worn down from the long level. I'd say it's even more nerve-wracking now because the bosses don't have their life bars in this level, so I don't even know how close I am to defeating them. They take the last 2 lives from me, but thankfully I still have 3 continues, and without the police special you get after dying, you need it. They still take 1 more life from me before I take one of them out. I think I'd have an easier time with 3 Southers or Bongos. I finally managed to take out the other before I take any more damage and punch through the door to meet Mr. X, the leader of the Syndicate. He offers me the chance to become his right-hand man. If I choose yes, he drops me through a trapdoor back to round 6, and I don't want that. But what if we're in 2-player? Player 2 doesn't want to take his offer, but I think it sounds like a sweet deal, so we're fighting over it. Blaze is in such shock, she just stands there as Axel caves a skull in with a pipe. Yes, that's what's going on. It wasn't planned ahead that I'd win this or anything. Once she's out of the way, Mr. X makes me the same offer, but if I say no now after that betrayal, even he thinks I'm repugnant. First he keeps calling in pairs of Garcias, and at this point they're not an issue. Then he gets up with his gun, dashing around the screen and firing. You can grab him, but don't stand near him if he gets knocked down because then he'll shoot up and barge into you swinging the end of his gun. It also takes priority over some jump kicks. He also keeps his infinite supply of 2 Garcias. The jump kick is a good way to get at him while he isn't barging though. At one point his Garcias keep trapping me in place trying to keep hitting me and I lose an entire life in no time. In the end, it's a simple punch that finishes him off. If you did this choice in 2-player, the character you beat Mr. X with will be seen sitting on his chair looking all evil as the game tells you that you became the boss of the Syndicate and that we're pretty great for it while the credits roll. But what if we weren't irredeemable arseholes? The ending is the same for every other outcome. Here we get credits broken up with images of the 3 heroes standing over the defeated Mr. X, being greeted on the way out by our backup, and relaxing on the bridge watching the sunset. That's about it. Streets of Rage is still a fun beat 'em up. I was really debating whether I preferred the first Streets of Rage or the first Final Fight. I have a little bit more history with Final Fight and was edging towards that, but watching back the footage of this, it reminded me of how fun it was, so I'm gonna have to give it to Streets of Rage. The fact that it's difficult to design is tailored more to consoles and doesn't quite have the make them keep paying design of Final Fight helps. Plus, as much as I prefer Cody and Hagar over Axel's crew as characters, this game also wins on the music and atmosphere side of things. I know the second game is even more well regarded, so I guess I'll have to acquire a version of it that isn't on PS4 at some point then. Hell, even when it was pissing me off on the PS4, this game was still a fun time.